Don't forget that if you're 13 years old or older, you need a license to fish in Tennessee, unless you're fishing on property that belongs to either you or your parents. Now you can purchase your license online at tnwildlife.org, your direct link to the TWRA. This week on Tennessee Outdoor Journal, we'll start off with Archery 101, practice techniques.
You don't punch the trigger, you ease the trigger.
Today we're going to talk about the Ned Rig. It came on the scene a couple years ago.
Next up, the real secrets of the Ned Rig.
Tie that on, cast it.
And we'll finish off with a Drop the Tailgate at Laurel Hill Wildlife Management Area.
A bunch of trees. How have you worked to improve habitat on this property?
Tennessee Outdoor Journal is opening the cover and inviting you in for some outdoor tips, tricks, and behind-the-scenes look at the work being done by your Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Let's turn the page. What kind of legacy will we leave when our days upon this earth are gone? Tell me who will carry on this work that we've begun, care enough to be the keeper of the dream. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Tennessee Outdoor Journal.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Harmon, Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Hey, we're excited about our Archery 101 series we want to bring to you, and today we're at the Archery Den with Mr. Logan White, the owner, and he's going to tell us about the store, and then we're going to get into some tips and things. So, Logan, tell us about the store.
This is the Archery Den here located in Franklin, Tennessee. Really appreciate y'all picking us and coming here to film these segments. We're going to talk about everything beginner level, Archery 101. My tech, Matt, the store manager, he's going to do most of your tech talk. I'm going to touch base on some practice techniques and things like that. Thank you. Thank you for choosing here. Again, any issues you have with a bow, we can work on here. We can fix them. Matt is great at his job, so bring him in. Let us fix it for you. Let us get you back out on the range, back in the woods.
Awesome. Yeah, this is an awesome store. It's pretty cool to come check it out. So, Logan, what's the number one thing that you do before the season starts?
Practice. Fortunately enough, owning an archery shop and being an avid bow hunter, I shoot year-round. But practice is the most important. If you're not familiar with that bow, you're going to wound one or miss.
Well, one thing that's awesome about the store is you have a range in-house. So let's go check it out and show them a few practice techniques.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're in the range here. As you can see behind us, there's a lot of bows on the wall being worked on, getting tuned up for the season. Matt does great work on those, but Logan's got one in hand. He's going to show us what he does to get ready for the season. So take away.
So the first thing for beginner level archery is don't stretch your distance. You know, stay close, stay 10, 20 yards, and you want to work mainly on technique. If you start shooting early and you have bad technique, you're creating bad habits for your archery career, rather. So the biggest thing is going to be stay 10, 20 yards, like I said, and work strictly on technique. And once you have your technique, your muscle memory down, then we can start backing up 30, 40, 50. And, you know, Matt, he's silly. He'll shoot out to 100 yards. So that's what I'm going to show you today is just 10 yards in the indoor range and how to beginner technique on shooting a wrist strap, how to grip the bow, and things like that. So I'm shooting a wrist strap. It's a B3. We're going to shoot the Matthews bow, the VXR 31.5. So the first thing I do is I get parallel to the target. So my front shoulder is pointing down range. I'm right-handed, so it'd be my left shoulder down range. My feet, my front foot, the toes are at the balls of my feet, right at shoulder width, maybe a little inside of shoulder width apart. I thought I knew a lot about shooting and then I went and took a lesson with Mike Hudson, and the first thing he changed on me was my feet. So that's key for me. I always check my feet now. So then we come up like we're going to draw. I like to come high and bring my bow down into the target. Once we get it drawn back, we bend the elbow and the front hand. See how my fingers are loose? They're not gripping the bow, they're not gripping the release. Everything's relaxed. All the weight of the bow is going to be held between my shoulder blades. So I come up to my anchor point, I ease my finger down on the trigger. I don't slap the trigger, I don't lay it down real hard. The triggers on releases are softer than on a gun. So you got to keep that in mind. You just want to ease it on, and once you find your dot, you don't punch the trigger. You ease the trigger, and as you're easing the trigger, you're driving this elbow back. When the bow goes off, it should surprise you. Long range shooters, gun shooters, they tell you the same thing. It's the same thing with a bow.
So, there you have it. Logan, just recap for them. What are the things you need to remember? Muscle memory, things like that, feet, hands, tell them what they need to know.
So for me, it's a mental checklist. A lot of bow shooters listen to Joe Rogan, campaigns. They have a mental checklist they go off of before every shot. Mine, it starts with my feet. My feet have got to be right. My front foot, the balls of my feet, a little inside shoulder width apart. This stance for me, I've done it on every tree stand I've been in, and it's been fine. Now, yeah, there's times we got to sit tight and here and there. For the most part, I'm good. The second thing is going to be keep your fingers relaxed. You know, everything's just, because if this finger is tight, it's going to make this finger tight. That's going to move your trigger. It's going to move your pressure on the string one way or the other. It's the same in the grip of the bow. Your hand has to be relaxed. You're holding that bow in the V of your hand, so just have it there and just relax your fingers. Like I said, I come from top to bottom. I hit my anchor spot. That's hit your anchor spot, mental note, muscle memory. You hit that anchor spot every time.
And you'll learn that. You'll learn what that is.
You'll learn all that. And then we offer lessons here for a beginner. So if you're unsure, the first few, you know, when you first get a bow, come by, set up a lesson. Me and Matt, we can go through all of that with you. When you leave here, you've got good baseline fundamentals to work with and start extending your range.
Awesome. All right, well, there you go. Archery 101, practice techniques. Go out there and get ready for the season.
Hey everybody, Jason Holland with Jason Holland Fishing, here bringing you the real secrets on the Ned Rig. Today we're going to talk about the Ned Rig. It came on the scene a couple years ago and has become probably the fastest growing way to catch bass. And it catches them in big rivers, big lakes, catches them in streams, catches them anywhere, and is one of the most finessey presentations, downsized versions that gets not only a bunch of fish, it catches big fish as well. So today we're going to talk about rod and reel setup. We'll talk about the line. We'll talk about the actual Ned head. We'll talk about the soft plastic lures that go on them. We'll show you how to put them on, and also at the end of it, we'll talk about where to fish it. So let's dive right in. I've got a Cashin Elite Series Ned Rig rod here. This is a 7-foot, 1-inch rod. It's a medium power with the fast action. Again, you're talking really small weights with the Ned Rig, from 1/16 down to 1/32, all the way up to typically an 1/8 or a 1/4. So you need a rod that's going to be really versatile to cover all of that range. Got that on a Shimano. This is a Stratic 2500 reel, one of my favorite reels. And then from there, I've got Sunline Plasma braid, 16 pound, runs up to an 8-pound Sniper, Sunline Sniper fluorocarbon leader. Now you can go down to a 6, even down to a 4 if you'd like on your poundage of your leader, but for an all-around setup, I like that 6-pound to 8-pound range. So let's talk about the actual Ned head. And all a Ned head really means is it's a small hook, kind of have a mushroom style head, and then have a keeper on it. Some of them have a weedless, kind of a weed guard built into it, but it's pretty small. It's pretty simple. And the baits that you throw, as you can see, pretty small as well. But it's a great way if you're fishing high pressured areas, if you're bank fishing, if you're creek fishing, if you're pier fishing, or if you're fishing out of a boat and you've got a lot of people that's on the water that day, you just need to downsize and get bit, the Ned Rig will get you bit. So again, we talked about the head and then a couple different versions that they make. This is a Ned head that has a extra wide gap hook that you can turn around and rig that weedless, put this tip directly into the soft plastic. That's a version. This is the Missile Baits Ned head. As you can see, it has a keeper collar right here, has kind of that sickle bend. By far, probably my favorite Ned jig head is the Missile Baits Ned Rig head. Also from Missile Baits, it's a little bit different version of the Ned head. They actually put a skirt and they put a fiber weed guard on it, but it's still the same concept. It's a downsized, compact bait that really gets you bit. This is their micro jig. Huge fan of that product. Probably one of my favorite go-to baits as well. So let's talk about what you put on it, on your soft plastic wise. So we got a couple different arrays here. The standard, what everybody really started getting accustomed to throwing the Ned head or getting exposed to it, is the Z-Man. They called it the TRD, which stands for the real deal. They've got it in, as you can see, kind of the short, stubby worm version. And they also have the new crawl version. Made with the Last Tech, as you know, is extremely stretchy and catch a bunch of fish. And it's pretty cool stuff. But that's really what got the original Ned head. Everybody started to find out about it, was really this setup right here. We'll show you real quick how to rig that. It's as simple as you can imagine. You just take your worm and just thread it up on the hook shank, pop the hook through, and then from there just slide it all together and then pull it down and get it straight. So that's the that's how you rig the basic TRD Ned head. The other version is Missile Baits. This is the Ned Bomb. As you can see, they're all about the same in length. This one just happens to have their kind of quiver tail on it. Really great product. And then new product on the market by Torrent Outdoors is their striker version. I think this is the 4.5, just a little bit longer than some of the other ones. And really where the link comes is from this little teaser tail at the end. Really loving this bait. What's really cool is it's thick here, so you've got really good plastic to put your hook through. But here, it's got this rib version that puts off a lot of bubbles and helps you get more bites. So real quick, we'll talk about, we showed you on the original TRD. I'll show you on the Missile Baits Ned head and their Ned Bomb. Again, pretty straightforward. Go right in the middle of your bait. Take your time. Make sure you get it straight. And then from there, all you're going to do is just pop that out and just keep sliding it up the shank of your hook. Make sure you get it past that collar there, and there you go. Make sure it's straight. Tie that on, cast it. Now here's the next part of it is where do you throw it? And I say this not necessarily joking, but you really throw it anywhere. Only thing you got to remember is in this version you have an exposed hook, so keep that in mind. There are some other ones that have some weed guards on it, but just remember you got an exposed hook. But if you need to get bit, rock around limbs, around brush on the edge of that, on the grass line edges, around docks, any structure that's in the water. Again, you've got this scaled down version that bass, it's not intimidating to eat. It's not a real big meal for them to eat. They can just pick it up real quick and go. Get your Ned Rig. Check them out. I promise you, you will catch fish where most times that you're struggling, the Ned head will get you bit. Thanks again for joining us. Jason Holland with Jason Holland Fishing. Make sure you come out and check out my social media platforms. We got some more tips and tricks. Thanks to the TWRA for allowing me to come in and bring you the real secrets of the Ned Rig. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us today on Drop the Tailgate. I'm Barry Cross, the Region 2 Communications and Outreach Coordinator, and we are on Laurel Hill Wildlife Management Area. And today, Pam McDonald, the manager out here, has joined me, and we're going to talk about everything Laurel Hill. So, Pam, how many years have you been at Laurel Hill?
I've worked as the area manager at Laurel Hill for 7 or 8 years now.
And this is a big time of year for you guys because you're coming into deer season. And I know that a lot of people may not understand how it operates down here. And this is mostly a quota hunt WMA. How does that work?
Well, anytime you go to any WMA, it's always good to check the hunting and trapping guide because some WMAs are set up on same as statewide seasons, and then others, like Laurel Hill, have special seasons. We have roughly 2 weeks of archery earlier than statewide. We have a youth hunt that is a weekend, and it's a week earlier than the same as statewide. And they're both open to anybody. You don't have to have a special permit, just the license that are applicable to a WMA are all you need.
So those are non-quota hunts, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then all of the gun hunts, we have a 4-day muzzleloader hunt. It's a week earlier than same as statewide. And we also have 3 rifle gun hunts. And the first one opens a week earlier than the regular gun season does statewide. And they're all quota hunts. So the quotas are 500 hunters are all that's allowed on all those hunts. And a person needs to look in the guide, and there's instructions on how to go online and apply, and it's always usually about the middle of July when you put in for those quota hunt drawings.
So if you're planning on hunting with a gun down here at Laurel Hill, you need to start thinking about that right after the beginning of buying your license, and look for the quota hunt application period to come open and put in for one of the draw hunts. When I looked in the guide, it said, I think the 4 gun hunts that you have, muzzleloader and the 3 gun, they all say bonus deer. Does that mean it doesn't count towards our limit?
That's right. It's an extra one that is above the statewide buck limit. Anytime it says bonus, it could be, some management areas even have bonus turkeys, some have bonus deer, so that's an animal you can get above the statewide limits.
The thing with coming down here is you need to know that there are some restrictions in place when you're hunting deer down here, aren't there?
Yeah, we have antler restrictions at Laurel Hill. There's probably, I'm guessing, 4 wildlife management areas across the state that still have some type of antler restrictions. So at Laurel Hill, a buck has to have at least 4 points on one side or at least a 15-inch spread.
What you're allowed to take, is it 1 buck or is it 1 doe? What are you allowed to take out here?
Most of the gun hunts are buck only. You can only harvest 1 buck, and it's a bonus. The third gun hunt that is the first weekend of December, it's a either sex hunt, so you could kill a doe or a buck.
Okay, and what about the juvenile hunt?
The juvenile hunt, the antler restrictions are lifted, so a youth could come and they can kill anything they want to, a buck or a doe of any size.
And that's a non-quota hunt. Anybody can come out here for the juvenile hunt.
Yep, that's like mid-October, 17th and 18th, I believe, are the dates, and the youth can come kill a buck or a doe.
You know, there's that old movie about baseball. They say build it and they will come. Nothing happens accidentally, really, does it? I mean, this land out here, you've been manipulating this for the whole time you've been here.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you had a tornado come through and tore down a bunch of trees. How have you worked to improve habitat on this property?
Well, like you said, the tornado was significant because it laid down 600 acres of timber overnight. So what we did was did a harvest sale on that timber, and then we're going to just let it naturally regenerate because it's just more or less a straight line 6 miles long, probably less than a quarter mile wide. At this point it's got, let's see, it was in 13, so
okay.
Several years growth on it. and it's getting pretty woolly, which is good for wildlife management. But, you know, we're pretty much 80% mature hardwoods at Laurel Hill. We haven't ever done a significant logging rotation, and we don't plan to. We did cut one tract this spring, roughly 100 acres, and that's all I'm planning to harvest timber-wise in my career. But we did cut it. It's fairly flat ground, and I thought it would make a nice small game opening, just to completely clear the stumps and let it be managed for small game area. But then as far as the rest of the land, you know, with these wet summers that we've been having, we've got probably 2,000 acres at least of open ground, and every 3 years you've got to do something to it or it just grows back, you know, gets too woody and too big that you'd have to get a dozer in it to manage it. So you have to burn it, disc it, something to keep the trees from getting too big on you that you can't handle it.
Yeah. And you mentioned small game. There's a lot of small game opportunities out here. I know you can squirrel hunt and rabbit hunt, but there's even quail.
Yeah, we have a fair amount of quail, but Laurel Hill was initially set up to be a small game management area. So that's another bonus to me of having the quota hunt system, because people can come out here and squirrel or rabbit hunt, and they don't have to worry about making a deer hunter mad because a pack of dogs has run under his stand, you know. So there's just those 4 weekend gun hunts, and the rest of the time the small game hunters can do what they want to hunting wise. So that's kind of a win-win. The hunts are earlier, which lets people get out in the woods earlier than, say, my statewide season, so the deer hunters like that. And then the small game hunters like it because, you know, it's not like they're going to make anybody mad by trying to do what they enjoy.
Yeah, and you know, on top of that, you're talking about hunting, but when you think about an area like this, there's a lot more opportunity out here. I know you have some horse trails. How does that work with the big game hunting? And
well, we do have 30 miles of horse trails, and they can ride any time that there's not a big game season going on. So as long as there's not a deer or a turkey season, they can ride. And they just have to have either a license that would be valid to hunt the WMA or the high impact permit.
along with the horseback riding, I see that in the guide it says something about ATVs or OHV, but you don't really necessarily have trails specifically for riding those. What is that talking about?
We just mentioned that because, you know, it's a question that everybody wonders about if they can ride here or not. We've got 30 miles of roads through Laurel Hill, and they're nice chert gravel roads, but you can't ride your ATV or side-by-side anywhere except where you could drive a truck or a car. So we don't have designated off-road trails. During the deer hunts, we do allow people to bring an ATV to help them retrieve a harvested animal. Mm-hmm. You know, you could ride on the 30 miles of roads, but you would still have to have your permit or a license.
This is kind of a unique WMA in that there's actually water on this property, and you've got a couple lakes and a river running through.
We do. We have VFW Lake. It's around 20-something acres, and we also have Laurel Hill Lake. It's like 425 acres. And then the Little Buffalo runs pretty much right through the center of Laurel Hill, and it's a nice size creek that people could have a lot of wading opportunities to fish. And it's got some nice holes, deep holes for smallmouth or rock bass, bluegill, some catfish. It's not enough flow really that a person could just come and put a kayak and go. Yeah. So it's pretty much wading. Yeah. You'd have to pick your spots.
And certain times of year, I hear there's some trout in there.
We do, yeah. They do the trout stocking. I think they call it the spring or summer trout stocking because it starts in like February or March and goes all the way to the first week of June.
So it's a cold river.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we move past the deer hunting and the winter small game and all that, we come into turkey season. I know turkeys have been studied down here in these southern counties that border Alabama. How is turkey changing for you this year?
This year in Lincoln, Giles, Lawrence, and Wayne counties, they have shortened the season by 2 weeks. So pretty much mid-April to mid-May is our season this year, and the limit is dropped.
Okay, so down here you got to pay attention to the limits, and you got to pay attention to the season opening dates, because right now there's a study going on to determine why the turkey population has taken a dip in these counties, but there's still turkey out here, aren't there?
There are. This spring, you know, COVID just kind of got going in March, and so we probably had more turkey hunters than we've had in a long time. But we still harvested like 12 birds for 15,000 acres. So the numbers are down here, but there are some turkeys here. You don't have to put in for a quota or anything.
Okay.
But it's not a bonus bird either.
Okay. If you're planning a trip to come to Laurel Hill WMA, it is just west of Lawrenceburg on Highway 64, is that right?
Well, it's kind of the corner between the Natchez Trace Parkway, Turnpike, and Napier Road, that northwest corner of Lawrence County. And we do have some campgrounds as well, primarily for hunters and fishermen, but there's 3 primitive campgrounds that people can come and stay.
Okay, and like we said, the deer hunts this year, if you hadn't already gotten your quota permit to hunt it, you're out of luck this year, but be sure and look for the quota application period this summer. If you want to come down and small game hunt, there's plenty of opportunity for squirrel, rabbit, there's some quail. You can run your dogs, have a good day. Do they have to stop hunting like a day before the big game hunts, or?
Just at sunset the day before.
Okay. And great place, lots of places to run around. So it's another WMA you can check out. If there are any questions that we didn't answer, go to the hunting guide and look in there and see if that helps any. If not, give us a call.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Tennessee Outdoor Journal. We'll see you next time. Tennessee Outdoor Journal is produced by your Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency.
Hi, I'm Tracy Lawrence, just letting you know that the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency supports itself and manages all of the state's wildlife with the dollars invested by hunters and fishermen when they buy licenses. If you've never bought a license, but appreciate the abundant wildlife we enjoy in this state, I encourage you to do it. Start with the Type 01. It's a great investment in Tennessee wildlife. Learn more at tnwildlife.org.
Buy your license today at GoOutdoorsTennessee.com.